That's why we got to say that. But I want to thank everybody for joining both online and then, you guys on the big screen at Shawnee. We started to roll this newer version out last month, and then this will be the second go round. And what we thought we would do this time around and kind of keep it fresh is I wanted to interview Dan, your fearless leader. And Dan has a lot to share about his experience in business, and spend 10, maybe 15-ish minutes or so. And then, as Martin instructed, we break off possibly from what we're doing with Dan and myself and our group here virtually. And then the virtual group goes our separate ways, and you guys do your thing and see how that works out. And I can say for everybody that's in Shawnee or everybody else that's zoomed in, if there's anything that you want to see added or subtracted, I've said this, I started this 5 years ago now. This summer will be 5 years of virtual B2B as the executive director. And I always say that having more input than just mine is a much better recipe for success than just me saying this is how the group's going to be. So if there's anything you want to see different, if you want to maybe be a speaker on this, if you want to add value to this, please email me. My name is Scott Hansen. My email is scotth1210@yahoo.com. However we can make this better as a collective group, that's the goal for what we're trying to do here. The virtual group will split off after I get a chance to interview Dan, and we can do our own thing. But for those of you that are in Shawnee, I reside in the Chicagoland area. For the last 11 years, I've owned a business coaching firm. So I work with business owners really between $1 million and $20 million in top line sales. That's the sweet spot that we've had a lot of success with, and helping businesses and business owners grow their companies. The name of the company is SH Consulting. And I'm based out of Chicago, but I travel. I have clients all over the country. I do speaking engagements, both workshops and bigger groups that I speak to as well. So that's a little bit about me. I know we're kind of on a tight schedule, so I want to bring on Dan and get the opportunity for the virtual group to learn more about Dan, but also for maybe those of you that are in Shawnee to learn more about your fearless leader, and we'll just have some fun with this. Does that work for everybody, Dan?
Good. I think so. We like to have fun here at Shawnee, so that works very well.
Oh, well then, see, there you go. Perfect. Can you take, because we're on a kind of a time crunch, can you take 30 seconds, 60 seconds and just briefly describe what you do with the club there, and also if you do anything else in terms of business for us?
Well, yeah, the club here, growing here in Shawnee, and part of the team here, managers. And so I've known Martin for over 10 years, so we're not new with each other. And just, his leadership here. So just kind of only moved into the spot about a month ago. So, and I think most of us know how the clubs work. So I would just say that's it. That's I don't know anything particular, Scott, about the club. We're just glad to be here in Shawnee, Kansas.
About StratVision.
Yeah. And then StratVision, yeah. And actually I have some coaches. You talk about coaching, Scott. Every leader needs a coach. Every leader. No one outgrows coaches. And yesterday I was here, and I had probably the #1 classical pianist in the world I had on here. Her name is Yuha Wong. And anybody know Yuha Wong here? Anybody know her? I listen to her every day almost.
Huh.
And but I said to myself, she has a coach. The best have the coach. And you got me going here, Scott, but I have a book called How the Best Get Better.
Hmm.
It's the best that need to get better because they're the ones that want to get better. It's the best. And if you don't feel like, you're growing to be a best, you probably won't get better. So we all need coaches. I think that's a big deal. And I know that's your field, Scott, but
Yeah.
so I have secured a coach, because what I'm building in StratVision is a multi-line, with financial, accounting, digital marketing, real estate. I'm actually building it out more. And it's because I know so little in life compared to what there is in business. But if I surround myself with people that know what I don't know, which is most everything, right?
Mm.
All of us know just a minuscule fraction of what there is to know in business. So, Scott, that's been my deal is just stay in my lane, what I love, what I'm great at, and find people who love what they love and stay in their lane and help them grow. So that's kind of who I am. That's what StratVision is about.
Yeah, it's great. I know you've been in business now for 30 or 35 plus years, in multi-facets. Can you share one piece other than stay in your lane, which is a great piece of advice, and hire for something that you're not great at? Um, can you share another nugget with the group for someone that's been in business for 30 plus years around, um, whatever it is you want to share? It could be anything from driving culture. It could be anything from profitability. It could be anything from how you set your day up, as granular as how to set your day up. One nugget that we might be able to take and utilize.
Well, they've heard here, Scott, and I looked at Martin because he and I have been on this for years. I have one nugget. Here it is. It's called the entrepreneurial time system.
Mm.
And it was authored by Dan Sullivan, who is the #1 strategic coach in the world out of Toronto. And he said that there are 3 days in an entrepreneur's life. We're owners, right? We're owners. And the 3 days are, one is a focus day. And a focus day is when you do nothing, and I mean nothing but focus day activities. A focus day is when you're doing things that produce revenue. That's a focus activity, right? We all know what that is. And so that's a focus day. The second day, which most business owners don't have, is a buffer day. Not a buffer thought, not a buffer moment or an hour, but an entire 24-hour day where you do no activities that produce revenue. And this is really hard for people to grasp. And I actually shared this a while ago, Martin, but even on something we were doing, online, but people don't do it. You have to put a 24-hour period, and that buffer day is where you work on your business, not in it. A focus day is where working in your business and not on it. A buffer day is when you're working in it, on it, but not in it. And I share the story, and I'll be quick here because I've shared it before. A very large commercial realtor in the city called me and said, his secretary called me and said, Dan, I need this, this, this. It was a multi sale. Okay. It wasn't like a couple $1,000. This was major. And he said, can you come tomorrow? And it was a buffer day. I said, no, can't do it. If and but yeah. So anyway, and then so I'll leave it there. But I found a way. I sent one of my team. I sent one of my staff, and they just said, okay, didn't know any better. They just went and did it. Came back and it was totally done. And I didn't even blink, and she didn't blink, and it got done. So that's committed you have to be. And the last one is a free day. A free day is we do nothing in business, nothing. And when I got home at the range with my wife, but she doesn't want me to spend one moment on the phone on business, and I don't blame her. So it's a freedom.
Yeah.
Tony, thank you for letting me share that, Scott.
Yeah, it's great. It's great. And just for clarification, I've studied Dan Sullivan pretty intently, and I've heard that before. For everybody that's watching and listening, is the focus day and the buffer day and the free day, is that once a month or is that once a quarter? What is that?
Yeah, most business owners, they run at least 5 days where they do everything, and then maybe they take a day or two off. For a buffer day, it must be at least one a week.
Oh, okay.
Every week, one day, never changing. No one gets in. You and Martin and I have been talking about it because he's been doing it somewhat, haven't you, Martin?
Makes huge difference.
Huge, yeah.
Yep.
And
Yep.
anyone that does this, it's not a marginal idea. It's a huge idea. So every single week, and you don't change it. And so it used to be for me, Friday was a buffer day. And it worked so well that I actually ended up with 2 buffer days, Tuesdays and Fridays. And I jammed all my revenue activities in 3 days. I'll tell you, I was so exhausted at the end of Monday, Wednesday, Thursday. But when Thursday night was done, boy, I was satisfied and, successful. How about that one? Successful and satisfied. So thank you for that, asking that, Scott.
Well, I think it piggybacks off a lot of what we work with our clients on. It's very parallel to this, which is you're designating, you're color coding, you're calendarizing a specific activity before the week happens. And this is really important because all business owners, if you were to ask everybody in your room right now, if you're busy, all hands always go up. But that never changes, right? And I heard from a mentor of mine a while ago that busy does not equal productive. This is the myth that busy, because I wear a lot of hats and I'm the owner and I wear the accounting hat and the marketing hat and the sales hat and the this hat and the this hat. And my time is crazy. I can work till 10 o'clock at night, and that's admirable because we're working hard and we're digging the ditch. The reality of it is you can't scale a business by doing that. So then the next phase is, okay, so you're wearing a lot of hats and doing a lot of things, but what are the 3 things that move the needle in the business? What are the actual activities that move the sales or revenue needle in the business? And when you can calendarize that ahead of time. Oh, Nathan, can you put yourself on mute, please? Nathan can. Thank you. When you can calendarize that, like you mentioned, with these 3 things, you know that going into Tuesday, for example, that today is from 9 to 11 is X activity, no matter what. And so what happens a lot of times is we just stuff different garbage bags into different holes to see, and they just keep piling up and piling up. And then we wonder why we can't get around to the very things that make us sales or revenue or whatever. And that's the reason, because if I do this exercise with my clients, we literally share the screen. I look at their calendars. 9.5 out of 10 times, it's stuff, all different types of activities throughout the calendar, throughout the days, throughout the week. And there's nothing that's segmented out for this activity or that activity. Tuesdays and Wednesdays from 9 to 11 could and should be X activity, or Wednesday is your buffer day, like you said, or Tuesday is your. That's so important because everybody says, hey, how many of you want to increase your time or get better with time? All hands go up. This is an exact activity that you've shared. So I appreciate you sharing that. What else do you want to leave us with? Any other nuggets for all of us to be around in the next 3 years? What if you had to pinpoint and go back to your success as a business leader for all these years? You could say things like tenacity, hunger. You could say things like never give up. Whatever you want to share. What's the thing that continues to drive not only you, but drive maybe other successful entrepreneurs and business leaders that you've seen that this is the trait, this is the quality, this is the thing they have that gets them to maybe the next level?
And Scott, even when you first started the sentence, it hit me already. It was just in 2 seconds flat. Here it is. Find something you love.
Mm.
Not something you like, not something you can put up with, but find something you love. I've shared this before. You know, I've been married 47 years, and I found someone I love. It's kind of worked.
Awesome. Yeah.
Really worked. And
Yeah.
because you find someone, and then in business, I found something I loved. And it's hard for me not to smile when I think about what I love in business. I mean, it's like I'm totally passionate about it, because if you love something, you're passionate. And if what you're doing right now you don't love and you don't have passion, you're probably in the wrong spot.
Mm.
You've been hanging it around long enough. You don't have to like get reoriented. You either love it or you don't.
Yeah.
And God has put in every single person something unique about them to love something.
Mm.
Everyone. That's just a reality. And so what I like to do for myself and others is help them find what they love and help them grow in that. So does that make sense, Scott?
Yeah, of course. Of course. Yeah, no, it's great.
Nugget.
It's a great answer. And I was last week kind of piggybacking off that. I was last week I was in the Bahamas, very fortunate. My wife works for a big pharmaceutical company, and she won this very, very, very prestigious award, and they fly out everybody that won plus a plus one to the Bahamas. And it was
Right.
5 days of all in expenses. It was amazing. And these are all what they call a Circle of Excellence winner. And I happened to go around and during the dinner hours and cocktail hours and just ask, hey, you know, I just saw this is your second time, or this is your third time, or this is your fourth time winning it. You know, being kind of having this coach mentality. I'm like, well, what do you think separates you? This is me asking the individual. What do you think makes the difference of why you're here as the top 100 people in the entire company versus maybe one of your partners or didn't make it, or someone back home? And it's interesting to me because every single one of them, I asked 4 of them during my 5 days. I asked 4 of them. I said, what do you think it is? Every single one of them said the same thing. They said other things, but all of them, which is strange, said this one thing is every single year, the company sets targets. But then I also set my own targets for myself, knowing what the Circle of Excellence parameters are. And then I make sure at the beginning and end of every week that those things are laid in front of my computer, and that I'm making sure that no matter what I do, and I'm busy, remember, busy doesn't equal productive, but I'm busy, but I'm productive in the very things I'm trying to do, so that in 12 months from now, my name is called. Meaning, you can do a million things in business. You can be busy all the time, but the reality of it is if you don't have a target, if you don't know what you're aiming for, revenue, profit, number of sales, number of new customers, retention, whatever you want to call it. If you don't know what you're aiming for, how can you expect to hit it?
And Scott,
it was,
on that, that's a buffer activity. When you said that, you've got to look at it regularly. That is not a focus activity. When you say, I've got a day when I'm refocusing on what I agreed to in the beginning of the year, that's an activity that must be relooked at. Like you just said, you got to keep looking at that. And that is a buffer day activity. Never throw that in. Get rid of it if it shows up in your focus day. Get it out of your brain. Get it on the calendar. Buffer day, I'm going to look at it again. So sorry, Scott, but that really hit me.
That's great. What's that, Martin?
That was really good what you just shared, Scott, about the target.
Yeah. You can't hit what you can't see. And I know we all know that. It's all the bumper sticker. But the reality of it is, it's interesting, is what you focus on expands. Right. I gave this analogy to one of my clients the other day. I said, you know, sometimes we don't want to look at our bank account because it's not where we want it to be, or we don't want to look at our P&L because it's not as good as we want it to be. But the reality of it is, the very shying away from or not focusing on the thing is the very reason why that thing isn't where it needs to be. And so what you focus on expands. If you focus on, this is the new car I want to buy, it's amazing how those cars end up popping up all over the road. If you focus on your money and growing your money, guess what's going to happen, you know, as a just mere fact of focus. So I know we're up against it. I know I don't want to hog up the rest of your guys' time here as a group. Does anybody, I mean, I guess I love for both virtual and then in Shawnee for you guys to have any, if you have any questions to Dan or myself. Does anybody have any questions?
I have
Okay.
a question on the buffer day thing, like, versus time blocking. I'm thinking maybe day blocking is better, but can you do a half a day of something on buffer day and half a day of folks days that ever work? No.
And
I've tried that. But
it doesn't work. Nope, because you know how long it takes to get your mind in one zone? If you're in a zone and you have to get jolted out of that, it takes a while to get out of the zone you were in, and then it takes a while to really engage in the new zone. And that's just the way we're built. You know, it takes a while to zone out and to zone in. So if you keep trying to jam different activities, you know, focus with buffer activities, you feel like you're disjointed. You know, I believe that. I mean, I've watched people for years on that. So that's a good question, Martin. I don't think it can be done. We have a question here. Go ahead.
Would creating your business's content for the week fall under a focus day or a buffer day?
Creating the content would be a buffer
That's
activity.
what I thought.
Yes. Yep. Creating the content. What is my day going to look like? What should my week look like? What kind of activity? That's definitely a buffer day activity. And by the way, don't take telephone calls. Even if you don't have a team, even if you're on your own, I always had a team, so they knew that I didn't take any calls. But even if a sales call comes in, you say, you know what, I want to get back. It's very important. I'll call you back at 8 o'clock or 9 o'clock tomorrow morning. That's it. Yeah, I would take the call, but don't discuss anything. I'm in the middle of something important and you're important too. Can we do it 9 o'clock? Just clear it out. Do not receive, Eric, even if it's the best lead you had. I know I don't believe him. I know you don't believe me, Eric. It's too hard, but Eric's in the roofing business. But we all have those things, you know, something's gonna jam in there on us.
It doesn't matter, there was 3-inch hail, I'm not taking any calls.
Anybody else have any other, good question, by the way. Anybody else? It's, the floor is yours. The microphone is everybody's.
I
Quick
can offer
comment
one thing.
on getting
God.
distracted, basically. I think there's studies out there that show that when you get distracted off a task, it takes between 5 and 20 minutes to get back on task. So if you try to time block into 4 blocks during a day, each time you shift a block, it's going to take you between 5 and 20 minutes just to shift. Now add that up over the course of a week, a month, a year.
Oh,
So to your point, Dan, when you do one thing all day, only take a break for lunch, you've got one distraction versus multiple. It can actually increase your time by 10x if you do it the right way, which is
that's
hard
good.
because we get drug in so many different directions. But
Great.
I
Great
have
point.
I can add one thing if you guys can hear me.
Yeah, we can hear you.
How you guys doing?
Good.
I think that, you know, it's one thing that to do something that you're passionate about and that you love, but I think that you have to find what you're good at in the whole scheme of what you're doing there. You know, you have to find what you're good at there. You can't just do everything. Just because you're passionate about something, you love something, doesn't mean you're good at all the aspects that it takes to be successful in that, you know? So I've learned that a little bit. And then one other thing I'm thinking is that before I start the day, even if I'm blocking the day, I find that it's good to step back for 15 minutes or a half an hour and kind of do a little meeting. You know, most of the time I have my wife, who's my better half, to help me do that meeting. But if you have someone to do that with, it's a really good thing because you can get everything kind of up front. You can kind of organize your thoughts and you don't get sucked into the mishmash of going in 20 different directions, you know? So that's something I do on my side.
Todd, that was so good. If I could say, Scott, even though that you're passionate about something, there are aspects of what you love that you're not great at.
Yeah, I think so.
That is very important. And what you have to do is you have to assign that to somebody else.
Yeah, delegate, right?
I have some software that is essential that as I work with my clients, and I have assigned somebody else in my team to load all the data in. I don't do anything. And I pay them well to load it in. I'm not doing it. I want it done because I'm the
Yeah.
presentation, but I
Yeah.
am not going to be loading the data in. So that, Todd, that was very good.
Yeah, that's great.
I mean, especially if you have ADHD like I do and a little bit of OCD, it's really easy to get sucked into the thing, sucked into the
Yeah.
whirlwind of the day. You just sit down and jump in.
Hmm.
And if you don't prepare your mind for it, and that means everything. It means eating, kind of getting healthy, in the morning and not just jumping in, and I have to do that myself, I have to work on that.
That's great. Anybody else? Great points. Thanks for sharing, everybody.
Yeah, I'd like to piggyback off with what both Todd and Tim were saying is that, it's Guy Hendricks, he talks about working in your zone of excellence versus in your zone of genius, that a business owner can be excellent at many, many things. But the sooner you can identify what is your sweet spot in the business and then decide that is what I'm going to focus on. Then there is another book, which is I'm just reading right now, which is absolutely phenomenal. It's called Buy Back Your Time. And it's about figuring out when you buy back time, instead of saying, every task you look and say, instead of saying, how much money will it get me? And saying, how much time will it give me? How much extra time will this give me in my day? It's a really huge mindset shift because it might give you a lot of money, but it's also giving you a lot of, require a lot of your time. That may not be the best place to put your resources. So every time you look at every task you have and saying, how can I outsource this to give me more time, not just to have me spend more money? So those two things combined really can tie into how you grow your business. And the last thing I want to put in connection with what Tim said about doing it for the whole day, we also have to remember our efficiency. If we just sit down and grind through the day, it's not going to go anywhere. You have to build in mental buffers to take a walk, take a cup of coffee, get away from it, and then come back with a fresh mind. Because if 10 hours of work, doing it in 10 hours is actually not as effective as doing it in like 2-hour increments and taking a break in between.
Shout out to Dan Martell. Well done. Buy back your time. Yeah, good. Thanks for sharing. Anybody else want to comment? Question?
Well, I'll just put in what you mentioned earlier, where you sat there and said, you think about something, then you start seeing it everywhere. That's called your reticulatory activating system. And that can be a powerful tool that you've got. And, Ed Milet has a whole book series about where he talks about it and stuff. The other thing he talks about is you can create micro days, where you can run a whole day in 6 hours. So that you run 3 days in an 18-hour period. Where you could do a buffer day in a 6-hour period, type deal, where you can break it up that way there. So if you don't think, hey, I'm doing, a whole business day, so there are ways to work the system even into a faster period of time. So, I mean, it's a great way to work it and buy back time. But that is the one thing, money comes and goes. I'm trying to remember who said it. Money is the cheapest thing on earth. But time is the most expensive. Because you can always get more money. You can never get more time.
Yeah, it's true.
And time is the one thing we're all really bad at budgeting.
Yeah.
But again, it's also the fact that, that's one thing that Darren Hardy is always about is, find the one thing that you can do better than anybody else and then hire out everybody else to do everything else.
Hmm.
So,
Great. Thank you, Ken, for sharing. Yeah. Cool. Well, Dan, I think we're good. I appreciate you coming on and being the spotlight speaker for our group. And I'd like to, listen, I'd like to continue this too as we move this along and we continue to do this. I hope you guys in Shawnee, again, I can't see you. I'm just staring at half of Martin's head and all of Dan's head, so I can't see anybody else. But I hope you guys got some value from this. And again, if there's anything that I can do to add value to your lives or businesses or this group as a whole, I think I might have shared my email is scotth1210@yahoo.com. My name is Scott Hansen. This is the virtual B2B group, and I appreciate you guys hopping on.
Thank you, Scott. I love this format. I think it's gonna come together.
Yeah. Yeah. And for all the virtual folks, if you could stay on, we still got some time to go. So
All right.
thanks, Dan. Thanks,
Thank you.
Martin.
Forward to-
Appreciate the Shawnee group.
Good.